Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Dani, the Wicked Awesome Gardener, and many of you have been asking for updates since I saw that property at the end of October and started the process to make an offer on it. It was definitely a very back and forth process, lots of negotiation that took honestly nearly 3 weeks before we finally hammered out a deal. I was going to do an owner finance, and I sort of still am doing an owner finance, just with a different owner, sort of. So we were going to get the owner finance done, but there were some things in the contract that the owner of the property wanted in there that I just frankly wasn't comfortable with. I was fine with having to make a large down payment. I was fine with having to pay the higher interest rate, because that's what an owner finance deal typically entails. It requires more risk on the part of the current property owner, the seller. So they require a larger down payment. They require a larger interest rate. So that's all stuff that kind of goes part and parcel with an owner finance. I accepted that. I was good to go. But before they would even consider vetting us as buyers, as people that they would owner finance to, they wanted a $5,000 down payment that was non-refundable before they would even look at us to vet us. So that did not sit right with me as a realtor. Basically, I was all in and it was non-refundable whether they decided to lend to us or not, or whether they decided to even do the deal. They basically wanted it so that for any reason whatsoever, they could back out and keep that $5,000 deposit without having to give any reason. Just that, we've decided not to do this deal. And that was not comfortable for me. I was already waiving inspections and things like that because I had already known kind of what I was getting into with this property. So that was all fine. So I was committed. I wasn't going anywhere, and my side of the contract with the inspection waiver, with the fact that they are the financer and everything else, like, I was already committed and I couldn't back out anyway, but they wanted to be able to back out for no reason. And that's, yeah. Basically, if a seller backs out and they have cause, they get to keep your money, but they wanted to be able to back out with no cause and still keep the deposit instead of having it refunded to me. Real estate jargon, whatever. So when we were coming to that, my brother, or mysterious benefactor, as he prefers to be known, decided to kind of sweep into the corners for every penny and was able to come up with the ability to buy the property in cash. We didn't make as big an offer as we were going to because, well, if you're not financing it and we're just going to give you cash, we're not going at that price. We're going to go down. So we ended up getting our cash offer accepted at $50,000. And instead of paying the loan back to that seller, I'll be paying it back to the mysterious benefactor. So I'm still basically doing owner finance. I'm paying all the closing costs, and I will pay my brother for the for balance transfer fees and other things that he's had to come up with out of pocket. And then we'll just start attacking the balance, paying it down to him. So that's going to be pretty exciting. So technically, in a way, I'm still doing owner finance. It's just my financing source was family. So yay. So we got the property accepted. And then from there, it's been a crazy process. We were supposed to close, that is, sign off and take ownership of the property on December 27th. And as it's now the middle of January, you can see that that hasn't happened. So here's a couple of things. It's, again, more dry real estate jargon, but what we knew at the time when I purchased the property was that the previous owner had gone into a nursing home and they did not pay the taxes on the land. So the town eventually took the property as payment for the taxes, and they auctioned it off to get that revenue. And that's how the current seller ended up with the property. He bought it from the town at auction. So that's how that happened. That's how the town recouped their tax revenue. The way it works in a tax taking is that the previous owner of the property has 3 years to reclaim it from the city, 10 years to reclaim it from the state. So they have to pay all of the property taxes, fees, penalties to be able to get it back. But also, because the town, once they take the property, they sell it to someone else. So you can't just take that from someone else. You also have to pay that person what they paid for the property and the value of any improvements that they've made. The only way that really affects me is if they do come back and reclaim the property. So I would lose some elbow grease, some sweat equity. I would need to move, but I would have the value of the property and all the improvements in cash so that I could then go purchase another property. And so I'm not too worried about that because the owner, like I said, as far as we knew, was in a nursing home. They didn't have the ability to come back and take the property. It just really was not much risk for me. So I was willing, that's an acceptable amount of risk for me. So I was all good with that. And it's only the owner of the property, not the heirs, that can come back and take the property. 3 years there, 10 years from the state. So the only way that really affects me is I cannot get title insurance, and that's more real estate jargon and all that. It's insurance against other claimants to the property. But because I have worked in real estate and I know to have these things checked, I had a real estate attorney do an in-depth title search anyway to make sure that there weren't other people that did have claim to the property. Like, was there a trust, or there's a trustee, and whatever types of things that may not have been known by the town. So we did that sort of title search, and this is where things got crazy. And this is where I did a lot more research and some internet sleuthing, and I have found a lot of interesting things about this property that may cause some friction in the future, but we'll have to see kind of how that goes. So what we found out basically is that the property was previously owned by an elderly couple. This family in general has been in this town for generations. It used to be one very large parcel that was then split up and subdivided into smaller units, and the family continued to live on some of those parcels, even though they were subdivided out for various family members. Okay, cool. Well, this particular family, the wife went into a nursing home or assisted living at some time in the late 90s. And she passed away in, the 2000 teens. Some point in the last 10 years, she passed away. Her husband continued to live in the property, and he passed away about 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. So the previous owners of the property are no longer on this earth. So that, in a very cut and dry way, much sorrow to their families and all of that. But at a business or, financial standpoint for me, that just means there's no risk of the owners coming back. So that reduces my risk on the tax taking, reclaiming side. What was discovered by my attorneys is that when the wife did go into assisted living, the Department of Human Health Services put a lien against the property for her expenses. And when the town took the property for taxes, a tax debt supersedes all other liens, all other claims on the property. So the town sent all the appropriate documentation to DHHS over the course of like a year and a half of the process of the tax taking. But DHHS claims they never got the memo, the multiple memos. And let me tell you, this attorney at the DHHS was so rude from like day one. First, it took almost 3 weeks to get a response from her. All the attorneys involved in this, my own attorney, the seller's attorneys, the attorney the seller hired specifically to handle this issue, the DHHS attorney, it was like one giant like Spider-Man meme where they're all pointing at each other, saying it's your job, or it's their job. It's not my job, it's theirs. Yeah. So DHHS needed information from the town that the town already sent them. So all the attorneys, all they had to do was call or go down to the town hall, and they were not far from this town. They were very short drive. But 3-4 days passed and everybody's going, it's not my job. So I got in my car and I drove an hour and a half up to this town, and I spent time with the town selectman's assistant, and I got all the information, sent it to DHHS. As soon as they got it, they released the lien, which was great. Basically, it means that if I had taken ownership of the property, the state could have come in at any point and going, oh, hey, we were supposed to take that. And I would have had to go through a huge court process to, retain my ownership. It would have been a big thing. So that's been what's delaying our closing. So at this point, we're just waiting because she released the lien and she goes, all right, so I've sent the paperwork off to the Registry of Deeds. And once that's recorded, you should be all good. Now, if she had done probably the right thing and sent that as like certified mail or an overnight FedEx, something like that, then that would have been great. And we could have closed by the end of the week. It would have been totally fine. But she sent it snail mail. And I think she meant that as a big middle finger to us for asking her to do her job. And yeah, has been a week. It has not been received. And it's only going across town. So yeah, even with the holiday, 8 days and it still hasn't arrived, kind of makes me think that, yeah. So I don't know. As far as I know, everything is good to go, and hopefully we'll be able to schedule closing at some point. Yeah. Now that's just on the acquiring the property side. So there's been all that madness there. Now let's see what I'm going to get into when I get this property based on what I have learned in the last couple of weeks. Because with this lien, I did some internet sleuthing, and oh my God, what did I get myself into? I mean, I'm still committed 100% to the property, but and it turns out that the grandkids, and I think the son of the elderly couple that lived in this property, the son and grandkids live next door. And they are the ones that are parking their vehicles on the property. So I worry that they might not know where the property line really is. I wonder if they are going to be upset or even offended that I'm going to use that property. I want to try to make this as nice as possible. Like, I want to go over like with a plate of cookies, like, hi, I'm your new neighbor. And yeah, so I wonder how that's all going to go. Yeah. I also did find out that the property on the other side, that owner has gone also into assisted living, and that property was foreclosed by the bank very recently, and as of a couple days ago, it went up for sale. And I wish I had, had a couple more years before that happened, because, I mean, at that point, maybe I'd be in the position to snag that property next door. If anybody wants to be my neighbor in New Hampshire on a 1 1/4 acre property on a river, in a quiet little town that's still near everything you could possibly need, let me know, because it's for sale for $210,000. I know in some areas of the country you're going $210,000 for an acre and a rundown house with one bedroom. But for New England in general, that's a pretty good deal. Notwithstanding the fact that I got 2 acres and a rundown mobile home right next door for $50,000, but just saying. I bought ugly. I bought really ugly, and I'm going to make it really pretty. Yeah, so there's all this stuff. I also discovered through being on the town Facebook page, which it seems like a really wonderful, nice, tight-knit community without too much like, everybody seems really happy with the community in general. There's definitely some back and forth over some sort of bike path or walking trail thing that's going on, and I don't know enough about the situation to have an opinion yet, but I'm sure at some point I will, especially because I think that walking path is going very near my property, so I kind of want to keep an eye on that. But I've discovered, and this is the part that's really concerning me at the moment, so the neighbors have a dog. It is a husky, which I love huskies. They're so beautiful. They're so smart. But they have a husky, and it appears through a handful of posts where people have found a husky running loose in town, and it always seems to be theirs. So their husky, that is, you can see it in my Could This Be Home video from the end of October. You can see actually the husky tied out in the backyard. So they do actively attempt to keep the dog on their property, but it seems like she slips out a lot. I mean, they do have young kids, so I know how that happens. The kids don't close the door all the way and the dog gets out. It happens. I'm not so much worried like, oh, the dog, except that I'm going to have the chickens. I really had wanted to, I wouldn't be free ranging them exactly, but I wanted to be able to give them a much larger area to roam, because I don't want them to wander onto adjacent properties, so I want to keep them on my property, but I'm worried because a husky that runs free on a regular basis, getting loose unsupervised, that sounds like a death sentence for all my chickens. It concerns me for the goats that I do plan to get in the future. I have confirmed with the town I can definitely have more chickens. I can definitely have goats. I can have pigs. I'm very excited for this. I just have to mind the setbacks, but I'm starting to design the farm a little bit, and so I'll get into that in a later video, but I'm really concerned that this dog continues to get loose all the time, and so it really makes me concerned for my current chickens and my future chickens. So I'd love for you guys to let me know in the comments how effective is electric fence netting at keeping a dog out, especially, huskies have a pretty good prey drive, and I'm not saying anything against the breed. Like I said, I love huskies. They're wonderful dogs, but they do have a very high prey drive, and I'm worried about a unsupervised dog loose and getting at my birds. So if you guys want to give me some tips and tricks there, I'm just going to try to be super nice to these people and try to make my case, and try to do the best I can here. But all in all, I'm very excited. It looks like I think we're going to be able to close soon. I think we're going to have a property soon. But I seriously could not write this if I tried. Wish me luck. Bye-bye.